The entire chess community is wrong. Not about puzzles or grandmaster games, but about beginner openings. I'm sure you've been recommended the London, or the Roy Lopez, or even the Wayward Queen as a beginner. These are all horrible ways to play chess, since they're either too complicated, too positional, or too fast for beginner players to actually learn anything. Thus, today, I have procured 5 openings to choose from that can actually help beginner chess players learn. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, I'm sure everybody has learned London as a beginner and started losing horribly. Let's understand why before moving on. Your bishop is locked on the outside of this pawn chain. And so, when you get the knights out, you're immediately prone to this bishop getting traded. Now, normally I advise beginners not to worry about trades, but a bishop for a knight is rather disadvantageous, especially when you guys are always playing bishop d3 here and losing your pawn structure. Now, this basically just locks you in this pawn structure for the rest of the game. Your opponent's going to exploit this weak e-file, and you are just going to end up absolutely ruined. And so, because of that, you'll be at an immediately disadvantaged long term, and with your doubled pawns, there's not much payoff for this. While London is a wonderful opening, I don't recommend it to beginners since it is significantly more complicated than your coaches may pretend. Now, onto something that is actually playable for beginners, the skirmish. If you're looking to discard opening theory and play into an endgame immediately so you can focus on improving other areas of your game besides the opening, I recommend the approach of 1985 world champion Garry Kasparov, which is to trade off everything in the center and get massive central control immediately. To do this, we'll be using the Scotch game. So to begin, we trade off everything in the center, and notice that you're actually already winning. Now normally, having a queen in the center is bad, and your chess coach will probably teach you that. Now, that is only when you have the knight to attack it. Since there's no real way to kick the queen out besides c5, which is actually a horrible move, which fails to queen to e5 check, you can actually do very well with this opening. The only thing you do have to watch out for is queen to f6, but we will not be covering every line here, of course. Only a couple. And so now if black just plays a natural developing move, this is actually losing immediately. Why? Because you can kick him out immediately. And so now, if he tries anything except knight to g8 or c5, and you're very unlikely to encounter e5, but regardless, this is rather bad for him. So if he plays knight to h5, which is the only safe square he has with the knight, besides g8, then he's going to be losing this knight entirely. Why? Because of g4. And notice that the knight has nowhere to move. These pawns control this square. The queen and the bishop control this square. So we can't go here, we can't go here. Pawn controls this square. And look at this, his own pawn controls this square. He is absolutely out of moves with the knight. And so whatever he does next, even, I don't know, c5, we'll say, he is going to be losing the knight. If he continues to attempt to attack, look at this. We have en passant check. He has us to play king to d7. We take, and he's going to be losing everything he owns. If you're looking for some actual opening theory to explore and perhaps gain an immediate winning advantage, this next opening could be your first opening trap. You'll immediately notice that this is actually a rather standard opening with the Italian game. Black gets out his last remaining knight with knight to f6, and then we hop in with knight to g5. Now you'll notice we are actually threatening to take this pawn right here. So if he decides to kick us out with h6, we take on h7, and now the king actually cannot take us because of this bishop, right? So if he moves the queen, then we get the rook. And if he moves the rook, we get the queen. That is called a fork. And it is one of the many tactics that you must soon learn to employ to succeed as a chess player. Now let's go back. Say he plays the only move that actually is available to him, d5. We're going to take, and if he takes back, find the winning idea here. Knight takes f7 anyways. Who cares if the bishop is disconnected? Because now, the king is forced to take. Because if he does anything else, then we are going to win one of his pieces, either the rook or the queen. Thus, when he takes, we have this nice little fork on f3 with the queen. And he actually has to be rather brave in this opening and play king to e6, right? Thus, we have knight to c3. But a lot of beginners will not want to do that. Thus, they'll play king to g8. How do you checkmate him immediately? If you said to take with the bishop, you are also correct. But I prefer to sacrifice with the queen because it's pretty nice to get mate with the bishop. Every move is forced, and the king is surrounded by his pieces. He has nowhere to move. He's dead. Now that is a rather interesting opening trap. But say you would like to have some fun as black. Moving on to the Traxler. Since the opening I've just demonstrated to you is rather common, you may have already faced it. Below the rating levels of 1500, this fried liver opening may be the bane of your existence. Thus, black also requires counterplay. Instead of allowing the little knight sacrifice, we will allow a direct fork. If he is to take with the knight, you will take with the bishop. Since I do not wish to cover anything taking longer than 10 minutes per se, I will only be covering king f1, which is the best move. I will only be covering if he accepts the sacrifice. In this case, we must play knight takes e4 and king to g1. Of course, I should probably mention king to e3 is generally a poor idea because now queen to h4, and if he plays anything except g3, then he's actually going to be dead. Say he gets this knight out or something, it's going to be mate very quickly because here knight to b4, and he's forced down, and look at this nice little checkmate. It's a good little king march. It's actually called the king march line itself. So we'll be going back to king g1. Queen h4 is the only move. g3 is the only move for white. And so takes, and we've sacrificed many things already. We've sacrificed a bishop, we've sacrificed a knight, but we have many pawns for it. And king to f1 is actually forced, believe it or not. Thus, we'll be playing rook to f8, pinning the knight to the king. And so after knight to c3, we're going to be playing d5. Now, if he plays anything except bishop takes d5, then it's going to be immediately losing. Right? So if he plays here, it's immediately losing. It's mate, actually, because after here, he only has a couple moves. I mean, knight f6 check is actually going to be the slowest way. It's literally just sacrificing it for no reason. Thus, king e2 is going to happen, and basically it's delay. That's why it's not an immediate checkmate, but I mean, it's whatever, right? So, bishop takes d5 is forced. Now, bishop h3, and you'll notice that this is actually mate if he moves away with the king. So he will have to hand us the rook quite willingly. And knight to d4 is actually a very important move. Now, I suppose I should explain why. Queen f1 is most likely to happen here, offering a trade since everything is very close and personal to his territory. Thus, we'll be playing queen to h5. And the most common move here is actually d3. So now we're going to go in the opening explorer here. And we're going to check this out, right? Master Games, come on. I suppose there aren't any, are there? No rated games. Nope, none. Okay. Whatever. So this is actually a blunder because of rook to d8. Another brilliant sacrifice. Sacrificing the rook, because if rook takes d8, then we win the queen. It's pinned, right? And it is for that reason that many opponents will play queen to d1, attempting to go for another trade, which we will happily oblige, because now the knight is rooted away from the defense of the bishop, and you will be winning. Right? This knight will likely also fall. In fact, knight to e3 is the best move here. In which case, knight c5 is actually best. But regardless, you're going to be winning a whole lot of material here, and it should be a relatively easily won game for you. Because even though white does have two pieces for a rook, you have so much pressure here. He's so dead. There's nothing he can do. I mean, you can literally push e4 and be still all right. But now, rook c6, you're just getting in the rooks along here, aided by the knight. And you're going to be winning very easily here. It's going to help you improve at attacking, and that should be something that is beneficial to your gameplay long term. Now, this is a rather complicated line, so I would recommend learning this to learn the key concepts that accompany this opening. So, please, for the love of God, do not play this opening unless you study it. Since it is clearly rather complicated. Now, On to the next opening. For the fourth opening that I'm presenting to you, I thought it fitting that it would be for black. Now, a couple clarifying things about this opening. This opening is very dubious, and playing it in longer time controls is a rather dumb thing to do. Instead, play this in blitz, rapid, and bullet. And not even rapid if you're above 800, but still. It's a rather interesting opening trap, and Magnus Carlsen himself actually fell for a variant of it when he was 8 years old. Don't get me wrong, he was still very good when he was 8 years old, better than I am, but whatever. So, we're starting off, I'm sorry, I should probably clarify all of this, but e5, he takes, knight c6, he defends, queen e7, attacking again, he provides another attacker, another defender, and we go here. This is actually a triple fork, right? We're attacking the bishop, we're attacking the king, and we are attacking this pawn, right? So the only move that actually lets him do anything is bishop to d2. And so when the queen takes b2, a lot of people will play bishop c3 because they remember the pattern where this knight protects the bishop and the bishop protects the rook. They think that'll force the queen back. However, in this scenario, you can actually play bishop b4, pinning this white 8 bishop. And so actually taking on b4 is the best move for him, right? And I should probably explain to you what will happen if he does take on b4. With that, you will actually play knight takes b4. And now you're threatening a lot more. So, that's all. But let's get over what actually will happen most of the time. He'll take, and it doesn't look like you have anything, but you have this mate. And I should probably show you the refutation for this as well. The refutation goes knight c3, defending the rook. Here, with the idea of another trap, right? Because this. So instead of rook b1, knight to d4. And the queen's just going to be forced out. It's not going to be good for him. I mean, black's basically dead here, but it will take a lot of time for beginners to find this refutation, which is why it's actually playable in blitz and bullet and even rapid, if you're willing to use the clock to your advantage. Now, onto our final opening, which hopefully you will find satisfactory as a system opening. I understand this opening may not be for beginners whatsoever. However, this is probably the best advanced opening for a beginner to learn. Why? Because it has such an incredibly high win rate, and really helps use those key concepts from earlier. So we've offered 2 pawns to white at once. And so if black is to take the free one, then we're going to take back. I'll play bishop c4. And they're threatening a fork. And we will play queen to g5, attacking both the g-pawn and the knight. Now, notice that black actually still has a nice little fork here. But does he? No. Because when we take on g2, there's no more checks, there's no nothing. He has to play rook to f1 to save his rook. And now we play bishop to g4. The reason for this is that we have essentially trapped his queen. We try something like f3, we're going to take with the bishop instead. And if bishop e2, we're actually going to play bishop e7. We're going to sacrifice a rook, we're going to leave everything hanging. Why? Because if he takes the bishop, then he is going to be demolished. That's mate, right? Thus, if he takes the rook instead, actually going to be a blunder as well, because that falls victim to the same idea. And there's actually very few ways that black has to stop this. Sorry, white has to stop this, right? d4 and d3 are his best tries. And we're always going to have bishop to h4. And he's going to play king d2, which is one of his only legal moves. And we actually have to play knight to c6 here. Why? Because we still need to get more pieces into the attack. Now, notice that every line here basically has some romantic era, brilliant sacrifice, but basically he has very few options here. He's basically dead. There's nothing he can do. And I should explain why he couldn't just take the rook here. The reason he can't take the rook here is because of queen to g5 check. That's going to be mate in 6. Now he's forced to c3. Then we have queen to a5. Look at this. He has actually very few moves. If he gets his pawn out, it's going to be mate in 1, because we just take. If he plays king b3, that's mate in 1. So he has to play king c4, and we just march him forward. And this is going to be mate very soon. Even with that huge little fuck up. And that is mate. This is basically just extraction. We marched him all the way up the board. Mate in 17. Now, this is obviously a very complicated opening. So I would recommend you maybe stay away from this one, but this is more of a tantalizing thing for beginners. Very, very tantalizing, because you cannot begin to imagine how much fun you could have with an opening like this. Imagine what your win rate could be like. You can beat people with far higher ratings than you, exemplified by my game against this 3200 rated bot that ended in a draw. And I played a ridiculous opening against it. Boom. This is a ridiculous opening. Every move is forced. It's a ridiculous opening. Doesn't make any sense to play. And that's just how it works. So, remember, don't play anything too complex unless you've thoroughly studied it. Unless you find yourself in a rather horrible position in the opening. However, if you have studied it properly, then you should play whatever the hell you want, and don't let your coach tell you that you can't play it, because there are going to be many people who fall for these kinds of traps. This has been Blundered Games, signing off.